Can Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham become the best backcourt in the Eastern Conference? This is a question that I started to think to myself earlier today because I was reading a lot of these articles and looking at a lot of videos about people talking about staggering Cade and Ivey because there's this belief that they really can't fit together. And we all know, I've had my share of videos kind of jumping on Ivy because of his lack of ball security and decision making and things of that nature. But I think something that has been taken out of context is just how talented Jaden Ivey is in the first place, which lends towards why he still walks around with a very much so alpha like mentality that he thinks he is that dude. He thinks that he is the man, and that actually bodes well for this tandem moving forward. Because I think we all have come to realize that Cade Cunningham is actually that dude. Cade Cunningham is actually clearly the most refined, skilled, versatile player on this team as a 6'7" point guard who can score at all 3 to 4 layers, and he can be extremely efficient and get his teammates involved and show strong leadership and has great positional size. That is kind of a far gone conclusion, but Jaden Ivey still doesn't know that yet. And he may show that he knows that coming into this season. Maybe the front office has talked to him, but his competitiveness, his competitive nature to compete, to prove that he is just as good, is what makes this future tandem potentially so great. But before we dive into this video is brought to you by Bridges and Stones Family and Relationship Care. If someone you know and care for is struggling with their mental health or relationship, go to bridgesandstones.com and contact them for your free consultation today. One brave act today can create a better tomorrow. When I was thinking about this tandem, another tandem from the Eastern Conference back in the day came to mind. And I don't know if some of y'all remember this tandem. I think you should. It was John Wall and Bradley Beal. They had a very, very similar type of a early growth process, except John Wall had been the man on the team already. He had been there for a few seasons, establishing himself as an all-star, and then he had an injury, and then he was out, and the team lost, and they ended up getting a top draft pick that ended up being Bradley Beal. And as these two individuals began to grow together in this tandem, what ended up happening was that they had to figure out how to play together. But one thing that was clear was that if they could figure it out, they were going to be an elite team. There was a time when they were in the discussion for being the best backcourt in the NBA. Of course, most of you already know the other tandem that we are speaking of that was clearly better was Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. But the major difference between them was the chemistry. The chemistry between Steph and Klay was seamless from the beginning. One had a humble approach in Stephen Curry, and the other one was hungry to prove himself in Klay Thompson. One knew that he was the offensive fulcrum, and the other one knew that he was going to have to take on some more defensive responsibilities, but he was still going to eat. And I think similarly, the first step that has to happen is that chemistry has to form between these two. I think there is nothing more important to come out of this season than chemistry, strong chemistry, and the ability to succeed and thrive together between Cade and Ivy. These two could potentially be 25-point plus scorers per game together as a tandem, averaging well over 50 points a game collectively. If these two can do that in this season or next, they will be absolutely monstrous. They will be absolutely wrecking house in the Eastern Conference. When you look at what the Eastern Conference currently looks like in its landscape, you have an all-star in Trae Young who's still searching for that backcourt mate. You have Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges, and as potent as both have been, neither is exactly explosive. Neither is exactly this elite athlete this individual out there who has the gravity that pulls defenses towards them. Even Jalen Brunson in his scoring exploits, even in the playoffs, doesn't necessarily have that gravity that pulls the defense in. And yet, when you see Cade and Ivy, both of them have exactly that. Now, I'm not saying in the next 2 to 3 years they're going to be better than the tandem of Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges, but I'm saying they can be right up there at the top. And of course, you got other tandems out there, Drew Holiday, and you've got Jaylen Brown, and but Drew Holiday is going to be just about done with his career in the next 2 to 3 years. You got Damian Lillard. I think he's going to be lethal, and he's got Gary Trent Jr., his old teammate from Portland. I think they're going to be really good this year. But Dame is on his way out over the next 2 to 3 years. And so when we look at the landscape of the Eastern Conference, there is a huge opportunity and chance that this tandem can become one of the most potent, lethal offensive duos in the league. But first, they have to build that chemistry. And I think that JB Bickerstaff is the coach to do it. If he can get Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell to work, both undersized 6'1.5" guards who have limited abilities to be able to guard defensively, and both need the ball in their hands, playing a similar style, right? One more of a score first, the other one more pass first, but both needing the ball to be maximally effective. If he can get that tandem to work at a time last season before the injury to Donovan Mitchell, they were considered contenders because they were so dominant. If he can get that to work and thrive, surely he can get Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey to thrive. And this is the next part of it. But what he has to do is get them bought into playing defense. Both of them. Cade Cunningham, coming out of Oklahoma State, showed he could be lethal. Let me take that back. Not lethal defensively, but he can be bought in defensively. He showed that he had that dog in him to say, I will know where to be. I will take on the challenge of defending my guy and locking him down. And I will do that consistently for a season. He's shown that. And then when he got to Detroit, I think as a rookie, he did his best. But between Dwayne Casey leaving and then getting injured and then coming back with Monty Williams, you begin to see a lackluster approach to that end of the ball. Jaden Ivey has shown the potential during last season after Monty Williams bench. That probably is the most positive thing that came from the Monty Williams short stint in Detroit, was that he got Ivey to buy into defense because he wasn't going to play him if he wasn't going to play defense. He was having too many turnovers and shooting too inefficiently, despite his talent, to play him if he wasn't going to be bought in defensively. But if JB Bickerstaff can get both of them to buy in defensively, I think what it creates is a completely different outlook for this team. Instead of you having clear lanes to the basket and Jalen Duren trying to close off the rim as a somewhat undersized center in the NBA today, I think what you begin to see is this strong perimeter defensive front with Asara Thompson and then Tobias Harris and then guys like Ron Holland and Marcus Sasser off the bench, right? And then all of a sudden you start seeing this high-level rebounding team that's able to control the boards, get out on the break, and are getting stops. And this is the step that we were all looking for this team to take to really step into where the Orlando Magic were only a season or two ago. But it's going to start on defense. And I do think that both of them will have every incentive to really step into that space and say, we're going to defend, and really to hold each other accountable. Because I will say this, that's something that I did appreciate from that mildly contentious relationship between Bradley Beal and John Wall, and even a Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, right? When both players who are the best players on the team both think that they're the best player, you tend to have a level of competitiveness between them that holds them accountable to saying, like, look, man, I know I can tell you something because I'm just as good, if not better. You aren't the man where nobody can tell you nothing. I'm right there with you. And so play D. Call out those screens. Be in the right position. Don't forget the assignment. Don't forget the scouting report, right? If you're going to be told that you're better than me, or you think you're better than me, I'm going to hold you accountable. And I think if they can have that level of competitiveness between them, that can bode well for them really taking this step defensively, not just with the chemistry. But the last area that I think that they need to really kind of sit in, and maybe it's more with the fans that need to embrace this, that Jaden Ivey is a shooting guard. And this is why I literally am comparing them to John Wall and Bradley Beal. Now, I know I did a video way back when asking if they could be the next Kyrie and Luka Doncic. I was more so talking about their offensive explosiveness, right? Both of those guys can shoot, put the ball on the floor, get to the rim, right? Score at will, and have the ability to also facilitate some and get teammates involved. But they're closer. This tandem of Cade and Ivey is far closer to a John Wall and Bradley Beal because, like Bradley Beal, he had a season of being able to play some point guard when John Wall was out. But it was clear he's not a point guard. Phoenix is figuring that out right now. You might be able to bring the ball up. You might be able to facilitate. It doesn't make you a floor general. It doesn't make you someone who has that not just ability, but the mindset to run an offense, to know who needs the ball and get them involved and make sure that you know where each player needs to be and how to maximize the roster on the floor and the long-term goals and schemes that are created by the coaches so that you can ensure the team is in position to win the game night in and night out. It's not just about being able to get assists. Bradley Beal can get assists, but he's not a point guard. But John Wall was a consummate point guard. He was a true point. He can get 10 to 12 assists in his sleep. He led the league in assists for the majority of the peak of his career with the Washington Wizards. And I think similarly, Cade Cunningham is going to have a similar outlook where he's able to get 8 to 10 assists or more in his sleep because of his gravity, because of his selflessness, because of his basketball IQ and his pacing. I think he's going to be a top assist point guard in the Eastern Conference year in and year out, somewhere behind Trae Young and Tyrese Halliburton. He's going to be right there, especially as his team has brought in more shooting and veterans who know where to be and a much better coach in JB Bickerstaff. Now, I think as we look into this outlook of this tandem, how they become the best or one of the best backcourts in the Eastern Conference, if not the league, really stems from their ability to buy into their roles. One of them is going to have to be a point of attack defender, which is probably going to be Ivy. The other one is going to have to be the primary facilitator and offensive setup man for this roster, and that's going to be Cade Cunningham. But both of them will have to learn each other's tendencies, where each other likes the ball, how to play off one another. And I think we saw a little bit of that in short stints last season, where we saw when Cade was bringing the ball up in transition, Ivy immediately ran to the corner. And Cade used his ability to weave his way through the defense to get to the rim, to suck in the defense and find Ivy wide open in the corner. That transition play alone opens up cutting lanes and driving lanes and layup lanes for guys like Asar Thompson. Jalen Duren on the secondary break trailing, right? Tobias Harris moving well without the ball, which he does extremely well, right? Those two playing off of each other, being able to be a secondary attack man with Jaden Ivey, and then finding Cade who relocates on the opposite wing, that type of ability to play off each other is going to completely open up this offense. But it's going to start with their chemistry. It's going to start with their chemistry. They have to trust each other. They have to hold each other accountable. And then they also have to buy in defensively. And when they do that, the last step is to buy into their roles so that they can learn each other and have some consistency in knowing what to expect from one another to maximize this offense's potential. But as always, I want to know what you all think about this tandem. Do you really think that they could become one of the best tandems, one of the best backcourts in the Eastern Conference, if not the NBA? Let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, and definitely drop this video in your group chats and get at me in the comment section, and I'm going to holler back at you there. Peace.